This is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. And since it's Friday, we can just fucking get going here. Okay, Mark Ward is up first.
Hello, welcome
Hey, Mark,
everybody.
I see you got dressed for the
No,
reading.
I put on the top because I was like, let's not show my nipples, breasts, and tits. Um, this is a mean little story called Joined Recently. The problem with late night hookups was that despite pictures and conversation, you rarely knew exactly what you were getting. When Jake arrived at the guy's house, he knew he had a roommate whom he was sure he wouldn't see. The guy led him into his bedroom. There was crap all over the floor, clothes, CDs, plastic packaging. The guy was much thinner than advertised. He took out his barely roused cock without clearing any space for Jake to navigate toward him. Jake moved a rake of stuff aside with his foot. The guy's cock tasted like petrol, like it was doused in petrol. It was acrid and what he imagined purple to taste like, the kind of purple that's half mold and half rust. The guy whispered, not so much as an apology, but more of a confession, and with the attendant rush of it, that he was on stuff. He listed off 4 types of drugs so quietly that Jake could only make out one of them, cocaine. The guy was completely tweaked and talking about how his roommates, one of whom Jake ran into when he arrived and excused himself to use the loo, both of them staring at each other as they passed on the stairs, were very anti-drugs and that they couldn't find out. And so if the guy just strangled every word before it could form an audible sound, they never would. The weird taste didn't dissipate like, say, the latex taste of a dick that had just worn a condom, that artificial taste on flesh. If anything, it got worse. He wondered if the guy had lathered his cock in something, but he doubted it. The guy sucked him some, and then he was just too fucked up and had to stop. Jake said, sure, and left frustrated and a little high. They had been using poppers, but this was different. The guy must have had cocaine on his lips. Jake walked a little, leant on a bridge, stared out into the river below, and checked out Grindr to see if he could find a real man. Jake had decided that walking was the only exercise for him, gyms being too artificial with their enforced circuits and overexertion. He decided on a direction at random, which gave him the daily illusion of freedom, but then settled into a familiar loop that always brought him back home within a certain time limit. So it was a few days before he passed the guy's house and a few weeks before they intersected again, this time in daylight. The guy stopped him and said, hey. He was smiling as if they'd had a good night together. He had messaged Jake later saying that he was tired when really it was the drugs. They both knew that. And Jacob blocked him. He didn't know him. Hi? From the other night. Sorry? Inside Jake was giggling like Shirley Temple. We hooked up. And channeling every straight boy he'd filled around with when reciprocity was expected, Jake barked, what the fuck? The guy stammered, what the fuck are you talking about? I've never met you before. The guy stared at him, squinting, as if with focus he could expose the lie, but he couldn't. The guy continued to stammer and then remembered. He took out his phone. Jake had to stifle a smile. Look, and the guy opened Grindr. Don't be showing me that shite. Jake puffed out his chest and extended his arms. He wanted his size to be all the guy could see. And of course, the guy couldn't find the message. There was a beautiful moment where Jake could see the guy really wonder if anything had actually happened. The guy was stuttering, his mouth trying to catch up with his confused brain. Jake knew exactly how to end it. You think you can fucking hit on anybody? I'm sick of you, goddamn. He stopped abruptly as if he was going to say the word faggot and stopped himself because he was the better man. The guy looked embarrassed. I'm sorry. Jake walked off, and by the time he got to the end of the road, he'd made a new account and messaged the guy. Hey, asking if he was up for fun. He would text him periodically over the next 6 months, talking at length, sharing other people's pics, arranging meets that he knew would never happen. The guy would block him like he had done before. That didn't matter. It was always easy to create a new account. That's it.
Mark, that's an amazing story. I love the psychology of this piece because you understand somehow exactly what's going through the narrator's head, even though it's never explicitly said, and even though on the surface, it's deeply irrational, right? Like you understand like the vindictiveness there. You understand like the psychological complexity there. And as usual with your work, you have a real ability to get very gross without like getting very graphic, which I think is kind of rare. You know, a lot of people like they'll write a piece that and it'll be explicit and it will be like extremely graphic, and that's how they bring you there to that place, right? You can actually bring the reader there without like really laying the adjectives on heavy, if that makes sense, right? You could bring them to that kind of like that kind of deeply uncomfortable place without like dragging them there over the concrete. You know, it's just really good. It's just really subtle, smart, effective writing, I think.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I like the tease part there where you tease the word, the slur, but then you reverse it. So that was really that was really good.
It's a great, it is, it's a really good moment because you like almost think the author is unwilling to say it, right? But you were very
Right.
willing to say it,
Right.
and the character isn't. And I think that like that moment, and the character is, right? Like even you think, I think on some level that the narrator has a moment of hesitation, but he doesn't. It's part of the fucking game. It's part of the play, right? And that I think is, I don't know, I think it's really clever the way
It's so much worse that he doesn't say it because he's
Yeah.
just like, I'm such a good person. Like, you've reduced me to this.
Yeah, he's like congratulating himself. Kind of.
No, it's like the Louis C.K. N-word bit. It's like you're making me say it.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me again.
No, thank you, Mark, and thank you for agreeing to read at the last minute here. I know we kind of literally got you out of bed, so thank you, man.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
So, Rudy, don't mute your mic because you're up next.
Okay. So this is a thing that's on my Substack here. This is a super inaccessible piece. I'll say that right now. Essentially, this is about me having graphics card envy as a kid, and also some other stuff that happened as a kid. So yeah. I apologize. I'm still coughing a little bit here. Ooh. So this piece is called Mapping the Negative Space of My Gaming Hobby Would Allow Any Psychologist Who Does So to Roll Around in a Hoard of Pills and Money Forever. And if you think that's bad, listen to the piece. Young nigga, pen up. Pentiums and shit. Floating point math. MMX gonna give it to you. Young nigga need a new case. Motherboard. Processor. Maybe a new body. Hobby. Attitude. Try explaining that to parents. Try raising your grades. Try identifying as a gamer. Tri-state area computer show. Huge tables full of parts. 486 power kit. Crates of 3.5 floppies, 5 1/4 floppies. Untouchable porn CDs. Some, well, wares. Imagine Juarez from Outlaw Ballads, but pronounce it like Khajiit does. Khajiit has wares. A time-traveling Freudian doctor from the future past appears. Roughly middle-class parents? Yeah. Consoles grant temporary deferment from pixel hunting. Snowboarding Sonic freezes edutainment loans. Castle of Dr. Brain is unwanted burnt toast. Altered Beast is 30 minutes long, but Rolling Thunder suggests something in the distance. The distance is relative, a slider actually. On my 15 to 17 inches of digital sight, it's danger close. Obscuring fog is the friend of rippers and terrorists. McNamara himself could be in there. Jaws theme swimming through render frugal thickness. Boo, spook. You're drafted for the API wars. Gear check. 2 little boxes, Reynolds, wrap plasticine, middling 1990s. Rap is godlike. Reb is godlike. Is God like here? One of us meets greater mummy witchy woman. The other greets lesser void of geometric primitives. Sunken blue orbs tease something greater than school. Sex. You can't do that right now. Blank featureless sphere equals oblivion. Flat ghost faced in the reflection. Literally unplayable. Mummy, may I? But for the most part, your childhood was fairly normal. No. Slide that hoodoo into your shiny PCI slot. Pins out, fit to stab an effigy of this jealous buck. Darkies skate, I guess, but some folks glide. Chip on my shoulder about your chip. 3DFX has an oligopoly on games outside Who Cares or Monopoly. Miss me with talk about emulation. Rappers. Young nigga on the family box. Rappers aren't even supposed to be on it. Benchmark suggests a healthy art for your hobby. The sphere is swallowing me, software mode, trying to go with the grain. My rage is pro, 3D in name only. My life a slideshow, AGP caveman, Cyrex 686 clocked at 200 megahertz. Clock says almost 12. Any final concerns? Clocks go spinny. Software mode, trying on mom's shoes and clothes. Can't play trespasser, might as well trespass. Play dress up while ATI dresses up their gaming solution with the TV out. Beat my head, beat Shogo Mobile Armor Division. I know we can make it together. Benchmark suggests anti-homelessness architecture. Access to the internet changes nothing, everything. What is Jerusalem worth? Petition, national ISP buyback of all unused 1,000-hour AOL CDs. How much time do you spend online? The internet is full of shit like all pipeline-based entities. Download OpenGL drivers to pacify my rage? Is such a thing possible? I forget, honestly. Internet games, well-known scalamances for class consciousness education. Team Fortress Classic begins communistic enough. Turn on, set all graphics specs to below the poverty line. These models are too blocky, said to the man who's arranging the blocks. Can't see myself in what's rendered. This is bad representation, circa 1999. Dial in, choose a role. Playing the heavy while low-ping bastards take the high ground, fucking snipers. Heavy is in the heavy weapons guy. Heavy is this metaphor. Drop out randomly. Stare into CRT blackness. Consider smashing the wind modem. It steals resources from the system to operate. Now fascism rises, a swift tide solving an empty labyrinth. In the Whoverse, some war was probably unwon by a bad guy because the doctor spent 175 minutes explaining the difference between frame rate lag and packet loss to an evil general, confusing him long enough for a companion to shoot all of his soldiers. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? The 3D sphere is me now, 99.99999% full of darkness. I feel uncomfortable writing about youthful disparities in PC hardware, while in the meantime, many people get less than 20 frames per second, let alone 60. Many people get 10 frames, 5 even. Even now, you understand? Many people get 0. Can you imagine? 0. And that's it.
Man, This is fucking good, man. This is great. I love like the benchmarking like metaphor that's run through this. You know, where you don't lay it on too heavy, but where it's pretty clear, like in the way it's woven throughout the poem too, because this starts off feeling like almost a pretty gentle nostalgia kind of poem, right? Like, oh, remembering like, and yeah, there's a bit of like, there's a little like hint of the darkness to come, but like the memory of like, I love the way that you describe the PC Expo as being like some kind of Juarez black market and all of that. But it seems like, okay, we're kind of going through your youthful memories, and we get that first benchmark that's basically like, okay, this seems healthy. And then the benchmark comes back later. It's like, no, this has got off the fucking rails, right? Like this is
Yeah.
fucking broken. And I love how like there is that current of like tracking your psychological state over the course of the poem, and like using like PC tech as this kind of extended metaphor, but also not just as this kind of extended metaphor, right? But also just as like a means of recounting like childhood and adolescence, and like the uncomfortable and maybe aborted like transition to adulthood and all of that. Um, there's one stanza here that I have to fucking talk about. I put it in the chat, but it's the sunken blue orbs tease something greater than school, and then sex, and then you can't do that right now, where the transition between those lines, where that the caret there, initially you read it as greater than sex, and then it becomes a command in a text-based adventure game, right? Just like that.
I'm glad you got that. You picked up on that because I wasn't sure of that.
Yeah, no, I am like a fetishist for like great line transit, like for ambiguous line transitions, I should say, in poems. I love them so much, and that's a really great one. Anything where your perception of it spins while you're reading, I don't know. I dig it, man. And of course, by the end, it becomes completely absurd, which is great, you know?
Yeah, no. Thanks. I'm glad I'm glad you picked up on that the transition there. But one thing I wanted to point out is the artwork for this. So in the 90s, like graphics cards they came in a box first, I guess they still come in a box or whatever. But they had the card itself was really unimpressive looking and kind of whatever. In the 90s, it was just a heat sink, basically 4 or 5 heat sinks strapped to this fucking card, or whatever. That's the only way you could tell it was a graphics card. There were no fans on it or none of these, glowing shit or whatever. They didn't have that in the 1990s.
Yeah.
So the 2 boxes are supposed to be graphics card boxes.
Yeah.
And the one on the left is obviously the it says beast mode right on it. That's the gamer one, right? And the one on the right is kind of, because what they used to do is they used to put these like caricatures or characters of things that you couldn't render with current technology, right? So you would never see that character in the game, like that you couldn't render it in real time, but they would put that shit on the front of the box to entice people. And there's all these tricks. And then like your budget graphics cards would kind of have like 3D shapes and like basic primitives kind of doing something on the box. I just thought I would say that because I didn't know. But
Is that supposed to be Hal from 2001 on the budget card?
Actually no, but that's a good point. I guess. Yeah, great. I mean, that's I can't let you do that, Dave.
I can't let you spend $1,300 on a graphics card.
Right.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, actually, one more thing, man, since we do have plenty of time tonight. I've heard the story, but can you explain the try identifying as a gamer thing? Because this is a really good anecdote.
Okay, so I don't want to take up too much time, but
yeah, but we've got plenty of time, and we don't have many people signed up for tonight. So
cool. basically my psychiatrist, I went to the psychiatrist, and he was a guy who he actually had a Freud action figure in his thing, which I'm not sure if it was a joke or if he was serious, because he kind of behaved like a Freudian, like this kind of psychoanalyst type of dude. So, but I started to tell him about some of my my issues with, I guess, just gender, fucking whatever. I don't know, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And he stopped me. He said, he said, he said, I understand. That's interesting. He said, why don't you try with your identity? Why don't you try identifying as a gamer? I thought about it. I was like, okay, like whatever. I thought it was the funniest shit later. But later it hit me. I was like, that's actually really hilarious. And this is kind of the psychiatrist that's found throughout the whole thing.
Man, dysphoria resolved. Who could have thought it'd be that simple, right?
It's easy. Just identify as a fucking gamer, right? I mean, but the other one thing I'm proud of is the use of AGP here. AGP, for those who may not know, is a graphics card format. It's called accelerated graphics card format. It's in contrast to PCI, which was the one that, like Voodoo 2 cards, the big expensive ones, used to use that format, whereas the budget ones and some of the lower level gamer ones used AGP format. AGP is also autokinophilia, I believe. But okay. So I just wanted to make that reference, that connection or whatever. So yeah, sorry about that. Lord, I apologize. Laura, I apologize. I'm sorry. Anyway, I taking up too much time.
No. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Grapes is up next.
Hey. So I'm just going to minimize my Zoom screen and just let me know if it does, if the sound comes through. Can you hear me?
I can still hear you. Yep.
Okay. All right, just 1 second. Okay. So here we go. Life's a nightmare. I'm just living through it. You might think I'm sad all the time, but sometimes I'm just laughing hard and by myself. Now quick, somebody spike my water with Klonopin. I need rest. I should just pop the Klonopin by myself. I need sleep. Dose me to sleep. Have me pass out. See what that's about. Dose me to sleep so I can rest. Tell me in the morning we had done our best. Hey, I'm done.
As usual, you get so much emotion into a very concise poem. I like this one because it's a confessional piece, and a lot of your pieces are kind of confessional pieces, but this is like a very lonely kind of confessional piece, which is something that I really enjoy, right? A lot of your poems are kind of like you're defining your psychological state, or you're expressing your psychological state through your relationship with others, which is cool, which is a way to do it, right? But this one's interesting because you're kind of like defining your psychological state through the negation of others, right? Through the vacuum. And I dig it. And it's especially fitting with the way you've decided to frame it, with like the lights off and the dark screen. I think you really communicate that sense of like isolation, but not loneliness, and exhaustion that's in the poem. So it's a great poem. Thank you, Grapes. And Keith is up next.
Thanks, William.
Keith, my God, your face. We finally get to see you.
Holy shit, it's Keith.
It's Keith, guys.
Sorry. So, some of you may have noticed I'm doing things a little bit differently tonight. After a Misery Loves Company night in early July, I started thinking about some things. Then, over the course of the next several weeks, I made a decision. I came to realize that some of the pieces that I had previously read and some of those that I'd recently written needed to be treated a bit differently. They were and are very personal. And sometimes personal things need to be done in person. So here we are together tonight in person. Introduction. I struggled for a long time today with how I wanted to introduce what I was going to read tonight. I had a lot that I wanted to say. In the end, this is what I've settled on. Tonight, I'm going to begin my reading with a trilogy of short poems, a trilogy about life. After that, I'll pause for a moment, then follow the trilogy with a short story. And that's it. For many reasons, that's all of my introduction tonight. Sometimes we can say more when we say less. A trilogy about life. 42 years. I sit down and write my thoughts. I don't know what they mean. I ask my wife if I may read my poem to her. I assure her that it is very short. I ask her to tell me what she thinks it means. My wife says, okay. I read the piece to my wife. She says to me, you know that I don't like poetry. It sounds good though, but I don't get it. Why don't you just say what you mean? I don't speak, but I think to myself, that's the problem. I don't know what it means. I knew better. Illusions. There's a flickering light at the end of the tunnel. We see it as a beacon of hope. Through time, it appears to get brighter, though when we turn and look back, the sun blinds our eyes. Broken hearts. Fractured stones amongst the leaves, shaded by the cover of trees. The shoebox without shoes. Dear names redacted, I would like to tell you a story. I hope that it connects with you. There's a commonality between our stories. There's a connection between our feelings. There's a desire for the same outcomes. However, my story ends differently than yours. One day, our stories will likely cross. My story will end, your story will continue. There's a shoebox in the bedroom closet. It has lived in several closets over many years. It is filled with the first experiences of true love. It is filled with letters, notes, and mementos. It is filled with memories of youth and lust. It is filled with hopes and dreams and desires. It is filled with two lives during courtship. It is filled with love. One day, there will be a shoebox in your bedroom closet. It will have only just begun to live in the closet. Together, your first experiences will be the beginning. Together, you will each fill the shoebox with your lives during courtship. Together, you will build a new life filled with hopes and dreams and desires. Together, your shoebox will be filled with love. This is the story I wanted to tell you. Thanks for listening.
Keith, first of all, it's nice to see you. I know you had a lot of like trepidation and anxiety, but you did a great fucking job. You did a fantastic job of reading and keeping your composure and giving us the same like, you know, comforting Keith like approach that we're used to while being on camera. So that's fantastic. But I want to talk about these pieces because I love how different they are. Like I've said this about your work before, but like it's awesome, like your willingness to sometimes even within the same like reading experiment with a whole bunch of different styles. Like even from poem to poem here, the the one about your wife is, it's funny, right? It's really funny. It's brutal on some level, right? And it gets at something though that I think a lot of like authors have experienced, which is you create something and you try to share it with someone who maybe means a lot to you, but doesn't understand like the compulsion to create, doesn't understand like whatever like perverse thing it is that drives artists to continue making work, right? And that piece does that, but it does it in like, it takes subject matter that's often presented like as being like heartbreaking, right? And presents it in a way that's just really like gentle and lighthearted. And you realize, I think, that there's something transcendent here, which is like that, like being married to someone for a long time and knowing their ins and outs takes some of the sting out of like exchanges like that and renders them like renders them gentler. Because can you imagine like two young people who just started dating and then the guy's like, hey, read my poem, and the girl's like, oh, I don't really know what you're trying to do here. That would be it. That would be the end of like, that would be it. They would never talk to each other again. But like after 40 years or whatever of marriage, it's an entirely different situation. And there's something like weirdly life affirming about that. And as usual, speaking of life affirming, the story, as is often the case with you, is like heartwarming and delicate and honest without becoming schmaltzy, right? Without becoming like movie of the week, like Hallmark movie kind of material. And you have a real, I think, knack for navigating that kind of emotional space. And I think it's hard, and I think it must be especially hard in front of an audience like this. Like you sit in front of like a dozen of the most cynical human beings on the face of the earth, and you manage to get in there and like, and I don't know, like melt something, and it's great, Keith. Thank you again, and thank you again for sharing, man.
Thank y'all for listening. I appreciate the comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
And so Gigi is not here yet, but Daniel said he had a poem he wanted to read.
Okay, so okay, here goes. So basically, I'm writing a book about incels, and I don't know why, but I am.
Well,
And
you've come to the right place.
so this summer I was doing various interviews, and I did an interview with a writer called Nina Power about her book, which is called What Do Men Want? And I just love the name Nina Power because like my mother was called Nina, and I just love the surname Power, and it just triggers all kinds of strange things in me. And anyway, her book is called What Do Men Want? And I read it and I felt that there was very little in the book about what men want. I was like, there's like men want a sandwich, and it's like, okay. But like I felt sort of that there was something lacking there. So this is just, I sometimes when I'm reading or writing, I just kind of fire off some just random stuff. So this is one of those random things. So this is called What Do Men Want? So what do men want? They want to transgress and receive approval for it. They want to have sex with everyone on the planet and other planets too, like Captain Kirk. They want to mansplain things. It's right there in the word. They want to manspread, same deal. Anything with man in it, they want, like a man cave or a man bun. They want to be women, also has men in the name. All men want to be women, and some of them are women if they want to be. They don't have to be, but they can be if they want. They want to be the president of the United States of America and also the emperor of mankind in Warhammer 40,000. That also has man in the title. They want to give birth. I certainly want to give birth, but it's too late. I can't. I mean, I would have to find someone to get me pregnant or a sperm donor. They want to be sperm donors and have kids they don't know walking around everywhere. They want to be good looking or even beautiful. They want to be hot. I want to be hot. They want the love of a good woman and also the love of a bad woman. They want to call their girlfriend on the telephone and have a long, breathy conversation out of earshot of their wife. To my wife and my sweethearts, may they never meet, says Leonardo DiCaprio in that Tarantino movie. They want to have a coffee with a good-looking woman and be seen by other people having this coffee. They want the approval of strangers and also the approval of the good-looking woman they are having coffee with. They want to watch pornography and also star in the pornography. They want to be the man fucking the woman and the woman being fucked by the man, and also two women kissing and scissoring. They want to be both. Also two men fucking. They want to be both. They want to be the hero of a catastrophe, saving everyone, also giving up their own life to save someone random. They want to be the villain or Tom Cruise playing the villain. They want to be a Scientologist and L. Ron Hubbard on his yacht, the Sea Org, which is short for Sea Orgasm. They want a cat who loves them, 3 cats in fact, 2 males, 1 female. They want to be a cat man. They want to be Beyonce. They want to be Beyonce cheated on by Jay-Z and taking him back. They want to be Beyonce in military formation in Hurricane Katrina at the head of a Black Panther militia fighting, righting racial wrongs and dancing on cars. They want to smoke a cigarette in the ruins of the planet and watch the world burn. They want to be a nurse dressed up as the Joker. They want to tell jokes and everybody laughs, and they want to tell jokes and nobody laughs because there's nobody there. They are just alone in their room looking at the mirror like Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver. They want to be a famous and successful writer played in the movie by Robert De Niro. They want to have a biopic or biopic, however you say it, made about them, directed by Quentin Tarantino. They want to be Leonard Cohen, but Leonard Cohen dead, or at least Leonard Cohen in the Nirvana song. They want to be ashamed of everything they've ever done. They want to die of shame right now. They want to die of shame right now and not have to see another tomorrow. They want to want. Thank you.
Holy fucking shit, Daniel. That was incredible. I was losing it throughout because this is so fucking funny. And it's funny because it's psychologically true, but it's also funny because it walks this really amazing tightrope between being the poem you expect when someone says they wrote a poem about what men want and refusing to be the poem you expect, right? Like you're teetering the whole time between these like astute psychological observations, fantasies like that I myself have had some of them, right? And also like subverting the expectations of those fantasies, right? And the pornography bit, where it is incredible, and the L. Ron Hubbard, like the images here are so oddly specific and so like completely universal. I don't know how you fucking did that, right? I do, like, I don't know. This is fantastic. Where is this? Is this published somewhere? Is this out?
No, it's just something I wrote, and I think I might be ashamed to publish it, but
Oh,
I guess shame is one of the themes.
it is. It is. Oh, wow. It's fucking incredible. It's incredible. And I see Rudy's unmuted his mic, so I'm gonna let him say something too, because I could feel Rudy's appreciation for this poem as I was listening to it too. Yeah.
Yeah, no, just a very astute and like good psychologically, but also really just like really well flowing as far as like things flowing into other things. Like, you know, you have the men want to be women, and then they want to be all the men, and then you have the Emperor of Man in there, you know, mentioned from Warhammer and stuff like that. It really just flows together very well. And also, I should say, in the chat, people should tag themselves what type of which one they want to be, basically. A hashtag tag yourself. But I think my tags would be probably the Emperor of Man, Woman, and the song, you know, the Cobain song, you know, Penny Royalty. But no, excellent fucking and that was the other thing, is just the way you take all, like the Leonard Cohen part was really good, because they want to be Leonard Cohen but also him dead, and then you transition perfectly into the Penny Royalty song, you know, give me Leonard Cohen afterwards so I can sigh eternally. I mean, that's just brilliant. That was a brilliant line and brilliant transition. I love it.
Thanks.
I'm tagging myself as Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver looking at the mirror. Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. That was fucking awesome. So Gigi is not here yet.
I was wondering if we're trying to kill some time
Yeah.
before he does get here. I can read a few more things
Yeah,
if possible.
go right ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So here we have some poems write themselves, sort of like this one did. I went to go on a date with Bella Hadid, and I almost did. And then I have something that's like a list. Let's see where it is. Sorry, just bear with me for a moment. Okay. Get soil, read, write, draw, sew, guitar, French, LSAT, Japanese, Netflix. And then I have a few more. Let me see. I had new dick last night. The dark plantain was ripe. He firmly grabs my arm and jokes about how I want to be manhandled. The night is, and we kiss. He tells me he thinks blood rushed down into his cock. He checks, he confirms, blood rushed down into his cock. I think I might have read that one before. Sorry, I'm trying to find this one other poem I wanted to read, but I'm trying to remember which one it was. Okay. All right, so the title is When the Pleasurable Things in Life Won't Do Anything for You. You should see my pencil collection. Thank you.
That last one is great. Oh, sorry, did you have more? I don't want to interrupt.
No, that's it. That's it.
That last one's great. I wish Gigi was here for that one, because that's almost in the style of some of his poems that are really just like a punchline. I really like the list poem, because like without you having to enumerate what those things, like the context of those things and why they're on the list, like you intuitively understand, right? And I think that's kind of cool that we have these kind of shared like cultural objects where like just having them on a list in proximity to each other like communicates something. And I don't think you read the other poem either. That that poem is graphic enough that I think I'd remember if I had heard it before. But
Okay.
There's a great trajectory to that poem, though, because it starts off with one kind of intimacy, a kind of like feigned intimacy, the kind of intimacy you expect from that kind of poem. And it ends with a very different kind of intimacy, and and a more like disarming and like ruthless kind of intimacy that I think really sells the poem, and really I think like a person is reading that and they've got these romantic ideas at the beginning, and the end is just so brutal that I think it totally like subverts the expectations there. Anyway, those were awesome grapes.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
sorry, I just wanted to say that Bella Hadid line. I wanted to date Bella Hadid, and then I almost did. That reminds me of actually West Side Gun. I got real West Side Gun vibes from that line. I love how that just flows together. That's so perfect. That's like
Yeah.
Yeah, it's based on a factual thing. I was in the same room as her and I almost went up to her, but I didn't quite do that when I had the
Damn.
opportunity.
Damn,
I
that's
know,
wild.
I know.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
those
great.
are good though.
So I just got a message from Keith. I have a semi-transgressive Leonard Cohen story. Well, Keith, now you have to read it,
Oh shit.
unless you don't want to. That's also an option. But you should read it. You should read it.
Well, I'd get my camera set back up. I'd already
Sure,
gone for a recliner. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. Hallelujah, amen. They had obsessions and they both knew it. They liked what they did in the dungeons of their minds. She had tied him to the kitchen chair. Hallelujah. She looked into his eyes. She could see it was playing in his mind too. Together, they had discovered their hidden desires, their hidden loves, back in the early 2000s, in the most unlikely of all places. Levin Vincent's techno music played in the background, echoing off the walls of their underground kitchen. They loved it. She smiled as she watched him struggle in the chair, his eyes focused on the flag on the marble arch. Later, the playlist would shuffle to Alt J and Glass Animals, and he would think that she was letting her guard down. But then, in a surprise move, she'd kick in with Rammstein. That's when the fun would begin, and they both knew what was coming. But in the end, it would not be a victory march. It would be a cold and very lonely hallelujah. That's what they feared. The version performed by Jason Castro on American Idol was unique. It piqued their interest. As usual, he took the lead. That's what real men do until they become slaves to their lovers. The dive went deep, like their undying love for each other. The progression did not go in chronological order. It began in the middle with Grace from another artist, Tim Buckley. It was a heartfelt version, opening the world up to the beauty of a piece of music written and performed a decade earlier. Death came for Tim Buckley in the flowing waters of the Mississippi River near Memphis, Tennessee on May 29, 1997. But before his untimely death, the world was discovering the beauty of a story set to an unforgettable melody. A few years later, American Idol would be their point of discovery. The beginning was in 1984. A 50-year-old Canadian singer-songwriter was at a crossroads in his life. Books have been written about the song and the songwriter, Leonard Cohen. Today, it ranks among one of the most covered and recorded songs in music history. Everyone sees and hears and connects to the song in their own way. Hallelujah. The seductiveness of the song and verse is what they lived for. They were at that age. It was the world that they wanted to live in, to experience. Deep inside their souls, they sensed what would happen and where they would go, though not everyone interpreted it in their way. Sometimes, though, things tend to work out differently from what's expected, and that can be a really good thing. It was in this case. He is finishing writing his memory. Since the discovery of Hallelujah, they have listened to countless covers and versions of the song. Their long-standing favorite cover artist is K.D. Lang. Leonard Cohen agreed. He sets his pen down on the desk, cues up the song, puts on his headphones, and prepares himself for the journey. He closes his eyes and listens. He lives the song. The dopamine flows and flows. This is what art is all about, and he loves it. Amen.
Keith, I love how this story is constructed. It almost reminds me of some of the pieces Josh has read, where you have like a framing narrative and then it pulls back and becomes almost journalistic, right? And I love the way that you set up this kind of like erotic framing narrative. And then it becomes more than that. It becomes like an exploration of the history of the song, right? And the emotional impact of the song and all of the different covers. And then it returns to the framing narrative. It's just really well structured and I think really effective. You didn't mention the infamous SNL Kate McKinnon, Hillary Clinton, Hallelujah, which is one of the I don't know. That's the one that I always think of because that is like one of the most like cringe moments in like television history. But no, I really dug this, Keith. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a piece they'd like to read here? If not, we can
Do we know how far out Gigi is?
he said I'm going to be about an hour late.
Okay. Do you know what time that was? I
It
can
was
check.
around 8 o'clock when I sent him the link.
Gotcha. Okay. I have something I can read. It's
Okay.
I'll read it until Gigi gets here, unless somebody else has something real to read.
Okay. Let's see. Let's hear this.
Okay, so I want to read the copyright notice from Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time in PDF form.
Oh,
And then if Gigi still isn't here yet, I'm gonna start reading some of Robert Jordan. So be warned. You have been warned. Anyway. Okay. The author and publisher have provided this ebook to you without digital rights management software, DRM, applied so you can enjoy reading it on your personal devices. This ebook is for your personal use only. You may not print or post this ebook or make this ebook publicly available in any way. You may not copy, reproduce, or upload this ebook other than to read it on one of your personal devices. Copyright infringement is against the law. If you believe the copy of this ebook you are reading right now infringes on the author's copyright, please notify the publisher at http://us.macmillanusa.com/piracy. And at this time, Ramona says, I hope Adam is ready to. At this time, I will read from Robert Jordan, which somebody give me a random number between fucking, I don't know, 60 and 10,000, we'll say.
888.
888. Okay,
888.
let's go. What follows in shadow. I have no idea what book I'm reading for. I think it's the second book, maybe the first one. I don't know. This PDF is not really great. What follows in shadow. The light of their lanterns stretched just far enough to touch the other side, thrusting out of the dark like a giant's broken teeth. Loyal's horse stamped a hoof nervously, and a loose stone fell away into the dead black below. If there was any sound of it striking bottom, Rand never heard it. He edged Red closer to the gap, as far down as he could thrust his lantern on its pole. There was nothing. Blackness below is blackness above, shearing off the light. If there was a bottom, it could be 1,000 feet down, or never. But on the other side, he could see what was under the bridge, holding it up. Nothing. Less than a span in thickness, and absolutely nothing underneath. Abruptly, the stone under his feet seemed as thin as paper, and the endless drop over the edge pulled at him. The lantern and pole seemed suddenly heavy enough to pull him right out of the saddle. Head spinning, he backed the bay away from the abyss as cautiously as he had approached. Is it to this you've brought us, Aes Sedai? Nynaeve said. All this just to find out we have to go back to Camelin after all? We do not have to go back, Moiraine said. Not all the way to Camelin. There are many paths along the ways to any place. We need only go back far enough for Loyal to find another path that will lead to Fal Dara. Loyal? Loyal! The Ogier pulled himself away from staring at the gap with a visible effort. What? Oh, yes, Aes Sedai. I can find another path. I had... His eyes drifted back.
Rudy,
Gigi!
I hate to interrupt you, but Gigi is here.
Gigi, hurrah, he has arrived.
Oh shit! I hope I didn't interrupt something good there.
Just Rudy reading from
You
Robert
most certainly
Jordan's
didn't.
Wheel of Time.
Alrighty.
So, hey man, how you doing, Gigi?
Doing all right. Nice haircut.
Thank you. You missed it at the beginning, but my priest gave me this haircut.
The fuck?
There's a long story there, I'm sure. Well, there's not a very long story. Basically, basically I had commented to my mom or something that my hair was getting too long, and she's like, "Oh, our priest used to cut hair in seminary," and I was like, "Oh, that's something." And she's like, "I'll talk to him," and then the priest was like, "I can give you a haircut."
Jesus.
And,
I bet he thought you were a lot younger when she was talking about my son needs a haircut. I was
right?
very disappointed
Seriously.
when you walked in.
Yeah. Okay, Gigi. Okay. Yeah, it's Rudy doesn't have to filibuster anymore here, so it's all you if you're ready to
Really
read.
don't.
I kept
Appreciate
it
you
warm for
waiting.
you.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Rudy. These will be quick, just 3 of them. I'll put a link in. Oh no, William already did. All right. First one I said is, if I could only say beep beep, my life would be better. Female bartender calls me sweetie. I want to replicate her effortless service industry kindness. I want to say something clever like, hey, how did you know my name? I want her to misinterpret what I say and smash liquor bottles on my head. So weeks later, after I recover from my injuries, after I explain the situation, we can laugh like friends. Next one's called Just Above the Lowest Note on a Tuba. A single whale zigzags near the coast, making 52 hertz noises. It has never been seen, traveling in groups, whale surface to breathe. In air, sound travels 4.3 times slower than in water. NOAA records sounds regular whales can't hear. 2 major types of whale behavior present at 52 hertz. A whale heart is 2,000 times bigger than a human heart. And last one is called Midnight Fridge Light. If my apples were as soft as my peaches, I would throw them away. That's it.
Gigi, you continue to really surprise and astound me with these new poems that you're writing. These 3 poems are so completely different from each other in style, in content, in tone, in every conceivable way. Oh man, I love the first one. I love the first one so much because you like so perfectly and concisely capture the feeling of not knowing what to say and wishing that you didn't even have the option to say something, right? Thinking that like life would just be like so much more effortless if you didn't have to think about what to say, if you didn't have the option.
Yeah, that one's inspired by, this is kind of an old reference, by Terry Schiavo.
Oh, okay.
Are
Yeah,
you envious of Terry Schiavo, GG?
A bit.
A little? Oh,
Oh,
okay.
man.
So the beep beep is the heart monitor then, huh?
I thought you can only communicate by like beeping or something, like 1 for yes, 2 for no. Maybe I'm misremember. I think it might have
I
been a
think
Futurama episode.
I think she was so in such a completely vegetative state that they didn't believe that she still had brain activity. So I don't think she could communicate at all.
Well, no, she.
Yeah,
Or am I wrong, Rudy?
I think she was blinking her eyes. That was the thing.
that was it.
Yeah, she blinked her eyes, and they were saying they were trying to understand what it meant. They said she blinked once, that means something. She blinks twice, that means something else. And along,
Oh,
like
was that like maybe her parents' narrative?
her parents were saying that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Because I know there
Yeah.
was like her husband was like, nah, nothing's happening there.
yeah,
But
yeah.
her parents were trying to contrive a narrative to keep her on life support. That's God, that's that's all that's awful. But it's a great poem, GG.
Thanks for letting
Yeah,
me read.
I really like the 52 hertz noises. That communicates a whole lot in the little tiny thing. That's so good. The whale's making 52 hertz noises. That's really, really awesome.
You can hear them, right? You can or you can feel them.
Yeah, you can feel it. Yeah, it's like Sonic. Yeah, that it's weird.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, GG. And that's it. I think we're going to call it there. GG, we did manage. I know you were worried we might end before you got here, and you gave me permission to do so. But we found some creative ways to fill the space. So,
Sounds good. Yeah.
but I think we're going to call it there. Unless Rudy, did you really want to read more Wheel of Time?
Oh no, I think I'll leave it at that.
Okay, I thought you'd be like, sure, and then I'd be able to be like, you know what, let's not. But okay, all right, okay.
I mean, I can read for another. Like,
No,
I
no.
can finish. I can finish the book. I mean, we're only on 888, page 888. So
That's okay, Rudy. That's okay. Why don't you know what? There'll be another time. Okay, all right. We're gonna end it there as usual. I will leave the Zoom meeting up for a little bit, but that kind of concludes the reading portion. If you're watching, oh my God, I don't know if you guys can hear my mom's dog barking in the background. If so, I apologize. But if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, we do this every fucking week. Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Anyone is welcome to come, read their work. Anyone is welcome to come and just hang out. And yeah, we tweet out the link from our Twitter account at Misery Tourism, usually around 8 Eastern, right around the time we start. And fuck it, guys, that's it. Thank you to everyone who read. And yeah, it's a fun time tonight. All right, that's it. Fuck it.